Welcome back to Business and Life Stories podcast with James and Mike. Our very special guest this week is Carolina Baker, who is a coach unlike any coach we've ever met. Been reading her LinkedIn posts, looking at her website, and had several conversations with her. And I think you folks are going to be really impressed with what you hear. Welcome, Carolina.
Thank you so much, Mike. And thank you, James, for having me.
Welcome.
So one of the things that really stood out to us, you talk about this idea that especially for coaches and for early stage companies that need coaches, this idea that if people think it's all about the client, sometimes that can be a trap. So how does that work?
I see what you mean by that. Yes. Well, I find that a lot of coaches nowadays, they sort of have this, they specialize in a certain way, right? And which is good on one hand, because being specialized in something obviously gives you the opportunity to, up to a certain level, help people better. And however, what I now see, there's sort of this tendency to ask people to fall into a certain category in a certain age group, sometimes a certain gender. They need to have a given industry, for example, or a already baseline income before coaches accept them. And I feel that a lot of people just have to jump through 1,500 hoops and loops before they actually find a coach. So I always ask myself, where do normal people find a coach, right? Where do people find a coach that do not fit in any of those categories, or that went through 20 of those profiles and they think, well, and now what? I'm I don't fit in any of them. And so personally, I feel that there's a danger in that as well. If you always have the same type of people in your client group, you tend to start thinking, oh, I heard this story before, I know what's happening. And you tend to, well, coaches are humans too, luckily. And so you tend to start thinking in a certain direction. And so I believe people cannot be standardized. People are, people are unique, and each person has their own history, their own, the way they grew up, their own environment in which they grew up, and their own experiences. So having a certain group, and only that group, can actually limit you in how you can support your client, in my opinion. Does that make any sense? That does make sense, right?
It makes perfect sense. Most of our clients are they don't fit in. If they fit in normal categories, they wouldn't be creating what they're creating. And so it's a very, we have a lot of people who we would describe as square pegs, and they're never going to fit in a round hole, no matter what they do.
So exactly my thinking.
Your coaching is really unique in that aspect, that you haven't, like a lot of coaches out there, you haven't done this very specific niche, and people have to fit a specific type of profile to be clients, and that's super cool. Now, one of the things you've mentioned to us before was about this sense of belonging and wanting to fit in and energy drain in these things. So how do you help deal with those for your clients?
Okay. So just because I don't have like I'm piggybacking on your energy thing here, Mike. So just because I don't have like a niche, I do have sort of some entry criteria, as you might say. And basically the only one is I need to match with you. Because coaching is something that is energetically, you have to get along. You have to feel into each other, right? And so there's a if that's not the case, coaching is not going to work, because you're going to, as a coachee, you're going to put on the table, you're going to put your life most of the time. You're I'm at this stage, I want to be at that stage because I want to be better, or I'm I have an issue and I want a solution for it, right? And a lot of that stuff is personal, because you will find out your limiting beliefs, and you will find out what is really keeping you stuck, which often is a fear. So these are very personal things. And so for coachees to be comfortable, there does need to be some kind of a match, a fit, right? But energetically, you need to like me, I need to like you. Otherwise, coaching, well, is not going to be as effective as when you get along very well and you trust each other. So on that sense, so yes, I do look at how. So indeed, the type of clients that match with me energetically, and so these are often people I find that, like me, like myself, let's say in what for me feels like a former life right now, that feel that sometimes they don't belong. And they've tried a lot to, like you said, the square peg that tries to fit a round hole. And and it makes sense, right? Because people also often think, why don't I fit in? But let's say society is made for society. The way we have, the way society is built it's built around certain rules. Now, of course, some rules are very clear. Laws, for example, are very clear, but there's a lot of unwritten rules and a lot of unwritten things that we have to comply with to belong, right? And that's basically the round hole that you just mentioned, Mike. This, and so when we go through our lives from the moment that we are born, basically until the moment that we pass away, we are being shaped and molded into this, and this is what you need to be successful. And we get all these things. It starts with our parents, right? They tell us, do this, do that, be polite, don't talk when the grown-ups are talking, and why don't you go play there in the corner, because then like a good child would do. So you already get sort of shaped by that. And then when you go into kindergarten, there are certain rules that you have to abide to and certain things that you need to learn. Same with primary school. And then you go into high school and you want to fit in. And there's this certain group that looks really nice and with nice people that you might match with. You don't want to be there standing in the or sitting in the classroom by yourself. So you match with people you just a little bit. And then when you go to university, same thing, right? There are these groups and you would like to belong to one of these groups. You want to make friends. You don't want to be there on the other side of the country, from far away from everybody you know, and not have any friends. So you adjust a little bit more. And then on your very first job, the very first job that you get, you basically, you apply. And you sit in your interview, and the very first thing that people say is, well, how super nice to meet you. Let's see if you fit our culture.
Yep.
And so what do? First job, you want that job more than anything at that moment. You want that job. So you'll fit their culture. It doesn't matter what their culture is, but you'll fit it. You'll make sure of that, right? And so it's like the entire life has this sort of rhythm of getting you into a certain mold of life as a person. And so once you're there, well, I myself, for example, was there, very successful, loved my job, by the way, loved it, but also thinking, there's something missing. I mean, I'm successful, I have a nice house, I have lovely friends, I have the life I want, and yet I'm not happy. I'm just not, I don't wake up in the morning thinking, yay, excited, new day is starting, and what can I do today that I haven't done yesterday? And no, because the days all look the same, and you're sort of you're running the treadmill, and you're well. How are your experiences with that?
Yeah, very, very similar. I'm sure James has had similar things. It's sort of an older model of running a business. But it's an older model. We still see a lot of people using it, even startups, with defining who they are and what their mission is, which is all great, but then defining the culture before they bring people in, which is a mistake. So your team that comes in first should be the ones that sort of shape the culture together. So I think our audience would probably love to know what you used to do. So you were in a very different kind of career. You're really good at it. So tell us about that.
I was an IT project and later program manager. So I implemented IT solutions for corporate organizations, big corporate organizations, in telecom and in energy. Yes, in energy and in telecom. Oh, and in transport. And so, but like huge companies. So they were, these were worldwide. And so IT solutions were often also had to be rolled out worldwide. And yeah, I loved it. It was a pressure cooker though. And I mean, program project management, everything you develop basically needs to have been developed yesterday and implemented. And
Yeah.
and by the way, why isn't it, you get into your first meeting and the first question is almost, why isn't it done yet? So, oh, what? It's so yeah. Which is lovely, but I really like the energy of that, right? Program project management. For me, it depends on the company. I mean, some companies run project and program management completely different. I just happen to be in pressure cooker type of companies, and it's like I loved it because you get up in the morning and you know that not a day will be the same, not one, and there's always going to be a problem. Again, usually because something needs to be delivered yesterday, and nothing ever gets delivered. It's IT. This is a handmade work, most of it, right? You have to, well, yes, you have to program. You have to innovate. You have to think about a solution. You have to design it, and so these all this stuff together was it was never fast enough. It was never completely fluent, and so there wasn't one day the same. And so yes, that was it. It was fantastic, but at a certain moment, I did find that I got lost in there. It's and you basically, in my particular case, I just kept on running because there was so much to do. These types of jobs. You wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you open your email, and since you went to bed at midnight or something, you missed 50. And you think, how did I miss 50 emails? Who is working at this time of night? And of course, worldwide. So there's always somebody working. And so yeah, I at some point you lose yourself in you just keep on running, and never really stop to think what it is that you truly want. And if because this type of job also has another side. I think there's it requires a certain type of people to be able to handle that pressure cooker all the time. And so and and I myself had this moment that I thought, ooh, I'm very close to, you know, to maybe even becoming physically so tired that you become ill, and that you get all these little pains and little things. And so that basically your body is already saying, hey, you gotta be careful here. You're not sleeping enough. Your stress level is too high. Um, and so even though you love it, I loved it on one end. I did get all these warning signs, like, you know, stop and think for a moment. Is this really what you want to do? You know, is this really, and then, so because of that, I started analyzing this and thinking, besides from the fact that is this really what I want to do? Is this really who I am? Am I a runner? Am I a person that just keeps on, you know, just blasts away and not taking people into account because we have a deadline, and not taking my own gut feeling into account as well, and, you know, my intuition, and you know, seeing that you would have given more time, or given more budget, or you would have made different choices, more aligned with what you truly think is ethical and right, and stuff like that. And so slowly during that phase of being there, I started to think, what is it that I truly love about this job? And what I truly loved about the job was the people, eventually. And I guess that maybe everybody has that, but yeah.
I don't know. I think everybody wants connection, but certainly James can attest to this. We've run into people that don't like other humans very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, like, essentially we as humans haven't changed for 100,000 years or more, and the environment around us has changed, and I think it's becoming a lot more apparent now that the human touch, the human connection, through whatever means, is really important. And issues in society, or issues with our own mental and physical and spiritual well-being, come about if those inherent, those genetic needs are not met. And that can be a powerful realization, right?
Yes, I agree.
One of the things you've posted about is helping people refine who they really want to be. I think you described that as asking ourselves, is there a happy version of ourselves out there somewhere? So how do you help people figure that out?
Well, how do you help? Well, I guess, so that's a difficult question, Mike.
You're welcome.
Let me think. How do I help? So, I've been coaching for quite a while already. And so I first started doing that part-time next to my job, and eventually that grew into my own business, and now I'm coaching full-time. So over the last 12 years, I have gathered, I literally call it a toolbox, because I have a folder on my computer that says toolbox. And in that toolbox, I have so many things. And like I said, people cannot be standardized. So something that you need might not be what James needs. And so I think in that toolbox at this moment, I'm doing a training every year, at least one, to update my skills, to find new ways of questioning, of new tools, new small assignments or techniques that I can bring people to a higher level, right? And so that toolbox today now has 212. I just updated it today, so that's why I know 212 techniques that I use on a daily basis. So what I do when a client and I first meet, I try to ask them the right questions at that moment to sort of look at my toolbox. I open it and I go through all the methods and all the techniques and everything that we could possibly do, and I make a sort of a pre-selection. And a pre-selection of, oh, this seems to be a nice thing for this person because this person responds in a certain type of way, or is very analytical, or is very emotional. Has a lot of reacts and responds from emotion, or reacts and responds from knowledge, or reacts and responds from. So based on the type of person, I sort of collect the tools for the first session. I think, okay, this is a subset which in the very first session that we have together, I can use this subset of techniques and tools and everything else. And then per session that I have with this person, I basically throw everything out and I do exactly the same analysis again every time we talk. So which gives it a tailored way, and depending on the person, that's sort of how I get them out of that state. Yep.
It's a terrible state to be in when you're just sort of pulling your hair out and frustrated and your energy's draining, and just this is why getting the right coach can be super helpful. So something that we've not seen very many coaches successfully address things the way that you do. You're definitely the head of the pack of what we've seen so far.
Thank you.
What are some tips you have for people that are experiencing energy drain? What are some things that would help with that? And you're talking to me and James. I mean, James goes 24/7, 9 days a week, and I'm not far behind him.
I don't anymore.
See, he ran his batteries down. That's what happened. But
I think everything starts with awareness. So everything starts with awareness. Being conscious about. There's actually an exercise that I have that says, okay, have a look and write down what drains your energy, right? But besides from that, there is and then work with that, of course. But everything starts with awareness. I mean, you know how many people don't even realize that at the end of the day their energy is drained, right? They just keep on running. They just keep on running. They came home from work and and then they have to do this. So they have to, I don't know, make a meal, play with the kids. And then only when they are in bed do they realize, oof, my lower back is hurting like crazy. What did I do? And so, my body feels like, or they simply they fall asleep even before their head hits the pillow, right? And the next morning, that's when they get up, and they actually need a cup of coffee to wake up and to be ready for their next day. So, and then they think, I must have not slept that well last night. That's weird. I feel tired. And they get that cup of coffee, and then the rat race starts again. And so there's a lot of people that are not even aware of the fact that they are drained, right? They only, at some point, it comes up because on the weekend, they don't feel like doing anything. They don't think I'm tired. No, it comes up as I don't feel like going to those friends. I don't feel like going to the park. You know, I don't feel like going on a run. And so people have this, and at some point, this feeling of my life is just not really exciting. But it all starts with becoming aware that you're drained, that your energy at the end of the day is not where your energy level is not where it's supposed to be. Because if you would, like I said, awareness first. I'm gonna finish the what can you do about that? Awareness first, right? And I'm a big fan of meditation and grounding. So, and I don't mean meditation. I think silent meditation and sitting in it for 40 minutes is highly overrated. I think a short meditation of 3 minutes can already make you more present in your body. And for example, feel in the morning already, oh wait, my lower back it still feels a little bit tired. Let me take that into account today. Let me consciously sit on my chair in a better position than I did yesterday, right? And because there is sort of I believe there's sort of a triad, right? You have in your energy drainage, you have one part that's physical, right? And then there's a part that's your thoughts and basically if your thoughts are negative, that drains your energy as well, right? I mean, that makes sense. I was on a roll there. So sorry, guys. So your thoughts, your focus, and your physique. And so the physique, the physical part I just said, the thoughts are the negative that can drain the energy. The focus is also, you know, if you focus around you, if your awareness is constantly falling on the areas that are working against you, then you'll find more evidence of things working against you. And that actually that's actually a very scientific thing, because that has to do with how the brain filters the information. And so the moment you start your day with a little bit of meditation, you adjust your physique because you notice that your lower back is already a little bit tired in the morning. You adjust your physique during the day, you are already less drained. Now, if you add to that the part of, okay, whenever I'm aware of a negative thought, I'm going to catch that thought. I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to see if I'm right or if it's just a story that I'm making up. And if it's a story I'm making up, then I'm going to tell myself to stop doing that, right? And so that's basically the second. And then when you shift your focus and when you consciously say, okay, I'm going to shift my focus to what does work today, instead of focusing on all the problems that are there, I'm going to focus on the things that went well. In those three, a person that feels drained will feel a lot less drained by the end of the day, simply because you didn't use all that energy in negativity and in trying to fix a solution fix a problem that is not really there, basically. Sorry, did that make sense?
That made perfect
Absolutely.
sense. I'm gonna ask James this question, because what you just said was so profound. James, have you ever tried to fix a problem that wasn't really there?
Well, the problem's just someone's interpretation of a situation.
So the answer is yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a male thing to always want to fix things, right? It's kind of a very yang kind of approach, and ultimately, maybe there's not so many things we really have to fix after all, and it's just our interpretation of a situation.
So Carolina.
I strongly believe in that. Yes.
Yeah, it's been a really fun interview. Do you have any particular things you want to share with the audience that we haven't already covered? And people get a hold of you at coachingbycarolina.com and LinkedIn. I'll have those links down below the video. So what are some things we didn't talk about yet that you'd really like to get out there in the world?
So many things, Mike.
I know. She's brilliant.
Well, I guess what we might not have discussed yet, if you still have a little bit of time.
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
I think is the science part of coaching. So besides from gut feeling, and besides from energy, and besides from spirituality and all that, there is of course this. So that's one part of coaching, right? And it's a large part of coaching. But the other part of coaching is also very scientific. The other part of coaching is how does the brain work, and how can you use your brain for you instead of against you? And yeah, I think I'm going to have to explain that a little bit. So, so what we often don't realize is that we have a filter, right? Our brain gets around 3 billion little bits, bits per second, and it filters it down to 50,000. And so there's a huge amount of bits. I'm sorry, I keep being in IT a little bit, just a little bit, and a huge amount that we sort of disregard. Our brain doesn't consciously end up in our brain. Now, the reason for that is because basically our brain in the first 8 years or 7 up to age 8 of our lives, our brain is constructed, and the neuro network is constructed. Our brain cells, the way our brain cells are connected to each other is constructed. And so this if 80% is constructed, now I'm not sure how much you guys still remember from let's say before you turned 8. In my particular case, I have like a memory of 5 things, sort of. And most of them were not really positive. I remember my neighbor being bit in the nose by my dog, and stuff like that. And so not super fantastic, positive, and everything else. But 80% of that, and is in that area. And so 80% of the neuroconnectors are formed to create that filter that puts all the bits down. And we're not conscious of that. We would overload like an old computer if everything would just be going into our brain, right? And so it's a self-protection mechanism to put that filter in place in the first place. But that means that 80% of our choices today are basically done because of a filter we constructed before we were 8. And so that's the science part of it. We create all these highways between our brain cells, and we create these smaller back roads that are the connection is still constructed, but it's just there's not that much traffic going over it, and so the brain doesn't really actively use those connections. Now, how can you see that? If you have, like, I'll stick to the highway small back road example. So a lot of people, it's whatever you put energy in is the thing that grows. And so the highway can be a negative thought, can also be a positive thought. But whatever it is, whatever thought you repeat to yourself a lot. If you repeat to yourself, I am the absolute best soccer player in the world, that's your highway. And if the back road has this little bit of doubt, and maybe I'm not the best soccer player in the world, but it's only the back road, and there's one car driving over that every, I don't know, in a long time, and that highway is full of information, and right. And so what happens is that your brain will start filter out opportunities that, because the brain loves to be right. And so it starts filtering out all this information that evidence that you are indeed the best soccer player in the world. Now that opens up your world, right, to certain things. That opens up your world to, let's say, oh, I have this opportunity at the local arena, and they're looking for something, and it's a poster in the window of the supermarket, that if you wouldn't have that highway, you would just walk past the poster because your brain would say, oh, that doesn't need to pass my filter. That doesn't need to pass my filter, so I'm just disregarding that. And so by having that highway in this, I'm the best soccer player in the world, your brain says, you walk past it and you step back and you think, wait, I read something there. What was that? And you focus onto that poster, and you think, they have this nice event where I can show people that I'm the best soccer player in the world. Now, that is basically the science of coaching. And if you help and support people in making that highway stronger, if it's a positive one, or shifting the traffic from the highway into that small back road, so that small back road, right? It's like the government. The moment that highway is unused and that small back road, and people start complaining about there's so much traffic and there's traffic jams on it, and they start widening it, and you will have the possibility to run more traffic over it, and they will at some point break down that highway that's there.
Oh, this is just fascinating. So, yeah. What do you have? Anything, last words that you want to share with our audience before we go?
No.
No. We always ask that question.
I just want to thank you and James for having me.
We're really glad you were here. And folks, once again, you can contact Carolina on LinkedIn and on her website. Those URLs will be down below this video.